Hi Gina.
Hi Ione, hi everyone, I'm Gina, the senior editor of Polyester.
And I'm Ione, the founding editor-in-chief of Polyester, and this is the Polyester Podcast, a feminist pop culture podcast dissecting the discourse on a weekly basis.
Before we start, if you're a fan of this podcast, please make sure to like, rate, subscribe and review. And if you really love us, you can sign up for a podcast membership. You can join our WhatsApp chat, get access to our research each week, and get on our Instagram close friends for only £3 a month. We also now have a Substack called Non-Threatening Boys, *, where we will be sharing exclusive podcast episodes once a month on the Boy of the Hour. Do we have any reviews, Ione?
Yes, we do. 5 stars, interesting, fun and needed, with a sparkle emoji. Been listening for a while and each week I'm surprised by the deep dive that covers things I'd either overseen or hadn't quite thought about enough. It's always refreshing to hear Gina and Ione's banter, and their cackle warms my heart because it sounds like my sister and me. The podcast feels like a fun coffee chat with friends, yet is thought-provoking and creates a much-needed pause to reflect on the masses of content we consume. Love and support from Copenhagen, which is then followed by a teddy bear emoji and a pink heart emoji. And that was given to us by, is it Tove or Tuve?
Tove.
Tove.
Tuvelo?
Yeah, period. Via Apple Podcasts in Denmark.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
2 sisters.
Oh. What are we talking about today?
Well, today we are talking about how all hippies turn alt-right.
Especially women.
The female
Well,
hippie...
men as well, but we only care about women.
Maybe some non-binary hippies.
Well, we haven't really looked into the non-binary of it.
No, sorry, I haven't. Not very inclusive, but the women hippies have gone mad.
Well, it's because the thing isn't inclusive. It's about the divine feminine, and that's not inclusive.
It's very gender binary, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very gender essentialist.
So how did we get into wanting to talk about this, Ione?
Charlotte told us to do it.
Charlotte did tell us to do it. We started from that Shannon Blake girl that everyone's been seeing for the past year.
Yeah, the white crusty girl with dreadlocks, and there's also some contention as to whether they're called crusties or crunchies. Or is it crunchy?
Crunchy?
What is it?
It's crusty, like crusty punk.
No, everyone calls it
Crust
crunchy.
punk.
Crunchy. In America, it's crunchy.
And yeah, online it's like the crunchy.
Yeah, but in person, in England, it's crusty.
In England, yeah, it's like crust punk is people who like don't wash, the jeans stink, the whole body stinks, they've got like dreadlocks and they shouldn't.
Yeah.
It's been like around for years.
Well, yeah, I'm from Brighton and it's...
Are you?
Shut up. Rife.
Yeah.
In the community in Brighton.
I'd never seen one before, but then I went to visit a Tumblr friend in Norwich when I was like 18 and was like, whoa.
And your boyfriend had them.
No.
Yeah.
No.
When he was...
He wasn't a crust punk, he was like a little goth.
Yeah, but he still had them.
Not dreads.
What do you have?
Knotless braids. He doesn't anymore.
That's so much better.
He knows that it's wrong, and he also is an alt-right or an alien conspiracist or a eugenicist or any of the things that we're talking about today.
That we know of.
What do you mean?
We don't know for sure that he's not.
Well, yeah, I do.
He is a man that loves a plan.
I've been through his phone. I know what he's looking at.
Okay. So, Shannon Blake, if you haven't seen her, she has bleached blonde hair, she has dreadlocks, she looks like someone at a festival.
Yeah, she's got those, like, shrine diamante bindies on all the time.
Yeah.
But, like, and then, like, crochet bra tops that's like a sunflower, and she's just...
That she bought in
She's,
Shein.
like, got a deep fake tan on, and she's, like, singing. She does a lot of singing. She's got a singing...
She's a musician
career. And all his songs are like, hey, little shroomies, I'm in touch with my divine power.
Her fans are called shroomies.
I make loads of money, and that's because I love crystals.
And she says stuff like, if life gives you lemons, make mushroom tea, but that just doesn't make sense.
If you let the lemon go mouldy, maybe?
No.
No.
Mushrooms aren't mould.
They're related.
I don't...
Fungus.
Mushroom...
Mushroom. Anyway, we're not here to get into the biochemistry of how mushrooms exist, but rather how her aesthetic, which you would think be like a huge peace and love, like everyone involved, like open to everyone aesthetic, which is kind of like what we associate with the hippie thing, isn't actually what she's peddling. She's peddling all her like rhetoric boils down to quite an alt-right perspective.
Yeah, and that's not really just about her either. Like, she's kind of a figurehead for... Or like she's the tip of the iceberg for these groups of influencers and people that use spirituality as a kind of like gateway drug or as a vehicle in which to peddle alt-right, racist, fascist, gender essentialist, eugenicist beliefs.
Yeah, there was a really great bit in the research from the Washington Post. Let me just find it, that really summed up how this has happened. I thought it was really interesting. Yeah, so it kind of summed it up being like, because alternative spirituality is so like against the man, like wrapped up in conspirituality as well, like you think that like you're searching for this eternal truth, what does this truth come from, you're fighting the man. The piece in which sums this up better is about QAnon's Unexpected Roots in New Age Spirituality by Marissa Meltzer for the Washington Post, and she summed up being like, alternative spirituality and conspiracy are, in the end, united by one narcissistic idea, that there are things in the world crying out for explanation and that you alone are alone in unraveling the truth. And I think that really summed up how we get from point A to point B for me.
Yeah, and especially how it intersects with influencers. So let's go back to Shannon Blake for a minute. There's a Dazed article, Who is Shannon Blake, the e-girl alien conspiracist, going viral by Goncelli. She says that, Shannon says, it's like a quote, I've been learning from the aliens like how we're all connected to the pyramids. If these words mean anything to you, it's probably time to log off and touch grass. Sung to the sort of neo-soul cadence reminiscent of artists like Erykah Badu and No Name, the words come by way of viral singer-influencer Shannon Blake. With over 1 million followers, the white-dreaded artist, also referred to as hippie Barbie within certain online circles, this Barbie is a conspiracy theorist, is refracting across TikTok feeds with cooked clips preaching high vibrations for her little shroomies. Through cringe-worthy sound bites like When Life Throws You Lemons, Make Mushroom Tea, which is I said, which she films inside a caravan lined with dream catchers and moss. In one popular video, Blake claims to have cured a kidney infection with good vibes, while tracks like Energy Vampires and 5G sound like an AI chatbot if its dataset was plugged with amethyst clusters and conspiracy theories. I just know her parents work for Lockheed Martin, says one commenter. Or as another simply puts it, brain rot.
Having a song called 5G so bait though, isn't it? Like, she knows what she's doing.
I mean, I think we get confused as to whether people know what they are doing, or if they actually believe it. Like, so everyone in the office is watching The Boys after I was going on about it so much. But there's this bit in the newest season which you wouldn't have seen where they like introduce a new member of the Seven, and she's like, she does a YouTube show, like a YouTube conspiracy show basically. And then another new person that you haven't met yet, who's like the smartest woman in the world, goes in and is like trying to recruit her to be part of the Seven, be part of Homelander. And is trying to be like, look, what do you actually believe in? And she's like, I believe in, a greater America. I believe in COVID's a lie, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, no, what do you actually believe in? And she's like, none of it, obviously.
Yeah.
So I think it's like hard for us to believe how much these people believe it as well. But also there's a sense of these people do exist in the world. So to not take them seriously is like, to dismiss it as unimportant, or like just as like something that crazy people do, even if they are doing it, not crazy people, sorry, not to be ableist.
Yeah.
If we dismiss them as someone that's just trying to get one over on like an audience for engagement and stuff like that, we're dismissing like the values that they're peddling as unserious, when obviously something that we're seeing across the UK right now with like all the race riots is that even if the people touting this information know what they're doing to bait an audience, those thoughts in their mind are still very real, if that makes sense, and they've just realised the best vehicle to do it through.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with someone yesterday, and they were like, I don't believe for a second that like a lot of these politicians would really mind having a trans person for dinner, or like being around trans people. They probably have, like, but it's a really easy thing for them to distract people with, get them riled up about that, so they're not paying attention to what they're actually doing behind the scenes. And that's not to say that the audiences of politicians, the audience of people like Shannon Blake are stupid for falling for this stuff. It's like the algorithm does it to you as well. Like, you click one video that's about Shannon Blake, like you like the song, fair enough, then you click off her video and there's another one being like behind the scenes, the lyrics explained, and then there'll be one off that being like the conspiracy behind 5G, and then it's such an easy rabbit hole to fall down. And we do it for stuff like, I don't know, behind the scenes on Showgirls, but like people are doing it and getting wrapped up in conspiracy theories. And I think you're right, it's really, we need to be really careful about dismissing people who believe in these things as like stupid, not because they're not necessarily, what am I trying to say?
They're not stupid, that we're being fed this content. And also it kind of like, if we're talking about the intersection between far right thought and like how it permeates widespread, like people in widespread ways, it's so obvious. And it's because, it's like maybe these politicians or whatever are using these people, and like using refugees, for example, as we're seeing in the riots in the UK this week, or like using trans people, or using like big pharma, which is like what Shannon Blake does, or like any of these things that is being fed to us through an algorithm. And people, obviously life isn't good for like so many people right now that they're looking for an excuse. And also it positions like racism or any sort of like ism, any sort of, what's the word, not oppression, what's like, you know, any sort of hatred, as something that smart people can wink about and poor people fall for, which is obviously just completely untrue, because these rich people also think it, like they're the ones that peddle this. Like Elon Musk getting involved with the fucking race riots here and being like, don't know, saying some bad shit about Keir Starmer and basically telling the rioters to go at it. It's like, these people know what they're doing, because like, especially Elon Musk, which we'll go into, like believe in a new world order that is literally just for white people on Mars.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so close to what QAnon tells us that these rich people believe as well. Like, they're like, well, the higher up people are sacrificing kids, bathing in their blood, and that's how they get to be celebrities. And then on the other side of it is like the actual rich people do believe that kind of stuff, like Elon Musk, Grimes are like, yeah, no, we're the super race, like we're descended from aliens and we're gonna go to Mars. Like, we're coming from it from like our point of view, we're like, both those things sound ridiculous, but they feed into each other. Like, if you hear of Elon doing that, it's not too far a step to be like, oh, other celebrities are definitely Satan worshipping. Do you not think, though?
Well, as I've said once, I'll say it again, Satanism is a very
misunderstood
religion, and it only advocates for peace. I'm not a Satanist. I'm not religious. But also, I think this stuff has always existed in culture so much, like, maybe because I grew up where I did, which is like a quote-unquote like liberal city, but like, yeah, the use of psychedelics, the use of like going back into nature, the use of all of these things, like positioning like modern life as like this thing that we need cures from. And I feel like people have been fed this offline for such a long time that now it's going offline. It makes sense that it goes more widespread because it's such like a potent mix. Like, people want to be told why something is wrong with their life. So if they can go and like pray to the moon, why not?
Yeah, and it's so fucking close to tradwife. Like, I never even thought of like connecting those two things together. It's like, no, we need to go back to the farm and go back to drinking organic milk, and like, we need to be being really careful about what we're putting into our body, because we're sacred vessels. Like, the only difference is what you believe in spiritually, between like hippies doing that and the aesthetic, obviously, between hippies doing that and tradwives doing that.
Yeah.
And both of those, the final destination is being, well, not the final destination for those things. There's plenty of liberal hippies, and I'm sure there's plenty of people who like the tradwife.
Well, I think the point is that like these traditionally like, obviously they exist on two ends of a spectrum. So hippies are traditionally like non-conformist, like potentially leftist. Tradwives are traditionally right-wing conservatives, but now it's kind of the shoehorse thing. They exist closer to each other than lots of other things.
Yeah, definitely. And the rhetoric from both can just be really interchangeable.
Yeah. There's this good article in the research called QAnon's Unexpected Roots in New Age Spirituality by Marissa Meltzer for the Washington Post, which Gina already mentioned. And it says there's a kind of iconographic romance between swole but new agey male figures who are taking supplements and staying disciplined, and women who have deep connections to the divine. There's a righteous and holy and sacralized sexuality, an immunological radiance around the holy couple. I know exactly the type of couples he's talking about. I see them on Instagram espousing the Know Your Strength relationship consciousness taught at the embodied men's leadership training retreats, and in the vulnerable but divine masculinity of Iron John. And then it's kind of talking about how like wellness men have kind of intersected into this conspiracy theory era, or vice versa. So it's saying how Joe Rogan has really fed into this, and how the central figures in this subculture are guys who don't know how to manage their charisma. They're burdened with unwarranted confidence, amplified and recycled by social media until it's habitual but also viral. So it's like saying how our online behavior is feeding into our in-person behavior. And also that the quote that you said, I thought is really interesting, that the kind of Medium article is called Nazi Hippies When the New Age and Far Right Overlap. And like, this is something that's been happening throughout the last century. But then secondarily, something that I thought was really interesting was the roots of the divine feminine in feminism, which is like something that I haven't really known about feminism before, I guess. So I feel like since Instagram, we've seen this divine feminine thing being entrenched. Like, you see people like Florence Given peddling it, and they don't necessarily like, that's like a gateway drug, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you're talking about your divine feminine, like being who you are unapologetically. It's all said in this like to camera way. For me, that's like very far removed from feminism, but it's interesting to see that they've intersected. So this article, The Divine Feminine, The Return of New Age Movements and the Politics of Women's Spirituality, by Chloe Bruet Dawson for Bowie Creators, says, originating not only mainly from the New Age movement of the 1960s, divine feminism is a blurry spirituality concept encompassing the feminine aspects of divine power. If all of this appears confusing, it's because, like New Age spirituality, the divine feminine draws from deities, myths, religious concepts, beliefs, and ritual practices from various cultural and historical contexts. Goddesses from ancient Greek, Celtic, Hindu, Maori, Native American, and many other traditions are all invoked when speaking about the divine feminine, which is nothing but a new name for goddess feminism, a Western movement from the 1970s. The return of goddess feminism coincides with the New Age movement's comeback. You've probably seen or worn crystals on a necklace and heard about white sage cleansing or manifestation. All of these centuries-old cultural practices are put together in TikTok without much background or explanation. And then the history of it is that goddess movement emerged from the second wave of feminism in the US and Europe. In the late 1960s, its emergence was not unexpected, as women's struggles for equal rights has always been tied to the rise and spread of new forms of spirituality, namely witchcraft. In reaction to the male domination of
monotheistic
religions, women made up their own collage of beliefs and practices, providing a new sense of identity. The movement was international and entrenched in feminism. Goddess feminism never disappeared, but its popularity declined before its recent rebound. If the movement was always multiple and diverse, without any authority laying its core principles, the resurgence of spiritual feminism today is even more split. However, it's interesting to look at the criticisms that were first made on the goddess movement. So basically, what I find really interesting about this is like, A, that it stems from witchcraft, like witchcraft and putting, because like in how we've seen it, it's obviously like Urban Outfitters witchcraft as well, and how the internet has like a history of whitewashing these like deeply culturally important practices for people of colour, and then how white women can kind of just come and pick and choose what they want and make their own like strand of feminism over it. Seems like really bad, but then it also, just the invoking of witchcraft and whiteness really reminded me of like what we see of the TERFs on Twitter of like J.K. Rowling be like, we are the daughters of the witches you can burn vibe, like how they have loads of like witch themed merchandise, like even though they don't they obviously do in so many ways explicitly draw a line between like biology and womanhood. I think the invocation of spirituality, witchcraft, is like something I haven't really put together before, because I just thought it was kind of like a meme. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're tough girls.
Yeah, definitely. And even though like divine femininity, when you break it down, like a lot of these rituals and things tie into things with it, making it about like your hormonal cycle and like harnessing like how women are connected to the moon, and like your period is like, get your period blood and throw it in the street and throw it in the soil and it'll help your fertility, and
eat your placenta.
Yeah, eat your placenta, and all these different things that are like you said, like from cultural backgrounds, but have all been like put together to mishmash into this idea that femininity, aka like bioessential woman, is that the word, bioessential? Whatever the word is, like
yeah, you can say that, I think.
This really like gendered binaried womanhood that's so tied to our reproductive systems is like, when you look at it away from spirituality, like, isn't this what we've been all trying to avoid the whole time, like with feminism as well?
And with that, we will go to a break. And we are back.
Hello.
I did it this week.
You took it away from me.
Oh, shut up. And I think what made me like put this together is because obviously we were talking about this podcast idea anyway, but then I was seeing on Twitter this person called Moira Donegan saying, they quote tweeted like a tweet that was like, the 3 p.m. hormone drop as a woman is diabolical. Oh my God, I'm fighting for my life at the mall. And then Moira said, TikTok scam health influencers could be like, women are irrational in their luteal phase and experience delusions under the full moon, and this is why they shouldn't vote, and half of you would believe it. And then they said, my girly hormones, like in quotation marks, my girly hormones make me incapable, stupid, a permanent child. What year is it? What weird gender essentialism are we practicing here? I'm about to do something that will get me drowned as a witch. And then someone called Aoife said, 3 p.m. hormone drop, we can smell ovulation. Your body is angry at you for not being pregnant. Your body chemically changes during your period to make you irrational. I hate the way the internet speaks about the female body as this primal, savage, debased other. It's so dehumanizing. And then Helena Constant said, yes, the continuity between this divine feminine essence of womanhood, pseudo-spiritualist stuff, and the, how do you say that, virulent,
I'd say.
Okay, virulent. Well, I can't speak.
Viral transphobia.
We're seeing ATM is a straight line. And that just made me think,
I can kind of see, like, I've always kind of quite liked stuff that was depicting women as primal beings, because I think for a long time, the patriarchy was saying, like, men are primal beings, boys will be boys. Like, I can see where this, like, idea has stemmed from trying to be feminist. Like, women are cerebral and, like, in touch with their feelings, and then men are, like, these primal beings who have to think with their cock. So then, like, trying to, like, combat that by being, like, we are also ruled by our bodies. I can see where that comes from, but I think that it doesn't actually, like, what these people are saying, like, it doesn't actually add up to make women take back to, like, just being about their body parts and their hormonal cycle.
Yeah, I think it's just, like, I think it's really backwards. So there's this article, this Substack by Helena Girly called The Modern Myth of the Divine Feminine, and she says, everything about the divine feminine reasserts conventional conservative gender roles in a shareable new form for the aesthetically inclined. Yielding, open, receptive, vulnerable continues the feminine list, its cursive captions and soft pink background blending palatably into my Instagram feed. Rigid, initiating, active, dominating, read the male equivalents. If the divine feminine is meant to be empowering, I don't know who for. Taken in isolation from the other attributes on the infographic, it reads more like a pastel-hued Andrew Tate post. Particularly worrying to me is the shift in how cis women online talk about women's health and menstruation. One common thread on Twitter is the suggestion that if you suffer from UTIs, bacterial vaginosis, or a yeast infection during a committed heterosexual relationship, then your body is rejecting your partner by sending a spiritual signal.
Be serious.
And then I'm sure people have seen this kind of like cycle syncing or live by your cycle, where it's saying like the food you should eat if you want to like live your best life, like all of this stuff. I think it kind of goes back to what we always talk about, which is that so many conversations on the internet just shouldn't even make it to a public platform. Like, I think it's so fine to sit around like with your friends or at work and be like, oh, I feel crazy because I'm PMSing, or like, oh, I feel this because of like I'm here in my cycle, oh, because of that. But like, why do we need to rationalize everything to having like a higher power and also taking agency away from us as people?
Yeah, it's like the old thing being like women couldn't be president because for 1 week of the month they're out of action.
Yeah.
Like that age-old sexist point of view on it. But like, I can be PMSing and control that emotion. Like, I'm an adult who's in charge of like what I'm doing. Was like trying to reduce it down to being like, no, I should give in to like this being like my PMS day. Like, it's just infantilizing yourself.
Yeah 100%. And by that I'm not saying that we shouldn't be able to be like honest about how these people, like how our bodies like make us feel and stuff, but it's just like we don't need to bend them into these weird things. Like in that article as well, it talks about how someone says that like because of our menstrual cycles we're more inclined to be like baking, cooking, being at the home. It's like, what the fuck are you on about? Like, the last thing I want to do when I'm on my period is be in front of an oven.
I know, do you want it to be the fucking olden days where all the women were in like a period shed once a month? Also, yeah, I kind of do want to be in the period shed.
Get us all in the period shed together. And then I thought it was interesting, there's this other tweet where it was like, have you seen Paris Hilton's new album artwork? Well, you have because you've read this research. How would you describe it?
It's, again, like that divine, feminine, like, floating goddess. Like, there's pillars everywhere. There's all the pastel hues. She's got a fucking moon above her. She's in, like, draping clothing. And that's, like, kind of that symbolism that we've kind of seen people pull from, like, tarot cards and, like,
it's
old
very, like, AI
Christianity stuff.
well.
Yeah. And then, like, turn it into, like, the divine woman. And now it's being cycled to us through imagery of billionaires.
And then this Twitter user called Dick Girls to Board.
Perfect.
Tweeted, cis girlies jacking transsexual new birth iconography for their own rebirth of essentialist divine feminine and AI sludge aesthetics as misguided attempt to beat us to the new world art landscape. Which I just feel like, again, what we're seeing is like basically a trickle down of what trans women how they would refer to themselves as like divine feminine, how they would refer without the spirituality as more about like this idea of rebirth and about like coming into yourself, etc. And we've seen that become popularized obviously through like Sophie and other like innovative, like people that have innovated, trans women that have innovated in like whatever their field is, and now we're just seeing it being trickled down to like the most basic pop girlies, if you can even call Paris Hilton a pop girly.
Literally any.
But it's like even Katy Perry, like Women's World, like how she's like she's like a robot, half woman, like that's very transcoded.
Yes, the idea of being like, once you understand feminism as a woman, you accept yourself, that's a rebirth for you.
Yeah.
Whereas like reborn into a new state of knowledge again ties into like the idea of hippie, the idea of QAnon, like you've took the red pill, you understand like a new plane of existence, you are reborn, and it just all like it's become a circle now.
It's not even a circle, it's like a reverse triangle.
Go on.
No, the other way around. It's just a triangle.
Yeah, it's like those memes, isn't it? Like feral and then like happy Hello Kitty and then feral again.
Yeah. So I know you're gagging to talk about Grimes.
Oh, I know. I've really had my mind blown. Yes, I don't know why, and I think it is probably just me being like, not really looking into it much, but I've always just been like, Grimes is a fucking idiot. Like, she used to be a landlord, she's married to Elon Musk, like she's a dickhead. Like, I just thought it was really interesting in the research actually, where someone was trying to justify that she was sharing Nazi stuff because she's autistic. Which was crazy though, like she just is reading it for what it is, like she's not looking into like the background of like what these things mean. But basically Ione and a couple of other girls in the office had read Bridget had read a Reddit thread that was breaking down all the different times that Grimes has signalled that she is a Nazi. Do you want to break it down?
I don't even know where to begin. I think you should.
I don't know where to begin. I found out yesterday.
So basically, a couple of years ago, Vanity Fair interviewed Grimes, and she was talking about this. It was after she'd broken up with Elon Musk, and I think after she'd had the third child, pre-ex custody battle, which we are seeing now. I don't know where she stands on this, like in this actual current moment in which she is suing Elon Musk for custody of their children, but she's a fucking idiot if she didn't see this coming. No offense, Grimes.
Big offense, Grimes.
Yes, offense.
I'd love to offend more Nazis.
So basically it's kind of talking about how she lives in Austin, which is obviously like tech capital of the US at the moment. She's in this like very privileged group that crosses over into conspiracy and far right and like white supremacy, eugenicism. And in this Vanity Fair article, she was talking a lot about like how she'd, her and Elon would always be best friends and like they'd always have this mission, and she was like conscribed to the mission.
Yeah.
That's the word, right? Conscribed.
Yeah, I think
like so. Conscription, like the war. Conscribed to the mission. I don't really know what the mission was. Like, I thought it was just to repopulate Mars. No. It's to
I thought the mission was like Tesla.
Making monster trucks.
He's like having a good time. Like being innovative with tech. Like I didn't realise that Mars was involved at all until I got into this Reddit thread.
So it's basically like that Elon Musk is going to go to Mars and populate it and be the god of Mars.
With his 700 children.
Yes. And that Grimes is going to be the queen of Mars because she has helped Elon Musk with this population thing.
Making the babies.
And that all the people that go there are going to be white.
Yeah, Aryan race.
Yes. And like there's so much to back this up. So if you're a podcast member and you get the research, you should read it. But like it's going into so deep as well about how she's kind of using specific words to dog whistle that she's part of the alt-right as well, that like I didn't know. Did you know them?
No, I didn't know them. And even the people she's following, like I'd never even heard of, because obviously we don't run in these circles.
Yeah, it's like fully. So like racist academic Razib Khan. I'll try and...
Someone called like Shufa or Shufa or something.
And then like she's really involved with this magazine called Palladium, which was founded by neo-Nazi activist Jonah Bennett. She was on the cover of it. The magazine itself receives capital investment from Peter Thiel, who's Heretical and Free Speech Conservative Conference, a haven for hate speech. She's also done a private DJ set for that conference, and she's like been at their birthday parties, like made them birthday cards, like is always tweeting at them. And I think it's so interesting as well because I think she knows this. So then even there was kind of like an expose day on Palladium and like the groups around it and stuff, and the people in those groups said it was really factual. And in that expose, it said that Grimes had been exploring eugenics and that there was a celebrity eugenics couple from Connecticut called the Collinses. They had an extensive interview with Business Insider, and they said that like Grimes reached out to them.
Did you read the article?
No.
I remember when it came out and it's fucking nuts.
What?
They're like all the kids sleep in bunk beds and the dad proper like batters them all and stuff.
Jesus
It's
Christ.
like if you're trying to raise the like master race, surely you'd be a bit nicer to the next generation.
Fucking hell, Gina.
Do you know what I mean? Like I'm like, these people aren't doing it because they care about like the next generation being this thing. It's because they are just racist.
But then I think we can also see, so like the Nazis in Germany, like in the 30s, were also really like spiritualist and like took a lot of their thinking from spiritualist thinking and then like bended it to their own will. And I think even Grimes was like a forebearer of this aesthetic, even though she's like a cis woman. And yeah, it's just like it's all a circle basically, and I think we're seeing like the content sludge version of it now.
Definitely, like when you look into the starseed, we're all descended from aliens thing, aside to populating Mars, but also like what these types of people believe, and what the girl Shannon Blake believes is that like we're descended from aliens. Is basically the plot of Prometheus, which I just watched. Like aliens landed on this planet, they made like 4 master races descended from them, and one of them was the Aryan race, and people are like, that's the best one, that's the one that's done the best in the world, we need to like continue that. And like that's not what the Nazis believed, or some of them probably might have done, but like that's how people are like turning in, like it's all just so embedded in each other. Like people be like, I'm a spiritualist, I'm a hippie, I believe in aliens, we're descended from aliens, by the way, like you should believe that. Is like, that's like a cute idea, like it's fun to like ponder on, but then when you look back to the history of like I don't believe it, but like maybe like let's watch Prometheus. But when you go back to the roots of where these kinds of thinking has come from, that's trying to like delineate that they can be a master race, they can be like a better, best, ideal type of human, it all just tracks back to eugenicism and racism.
It's gross.
It's so grim.
And yeah, and I feel like it's with Grimes, it's really interesting because she still kind of like apes as progressive on social media quite a lot, like because of the custody battle and all of the stuff with Elon Musk's trans daughter calling him out. She's tweeted like, I love and support Vivian and I always will, and like she's like replying to like Hemlock Springs. She's like kind of quite like, you could look at her Twitter and just be like, oh, she's just like
front facing. She's always been tried to be like a liberal figure, but then when you look into like who she's following, what she's liking, and this in the Reddit thread as well, they're like, she unfollowed them on this date when it became like a trending topic on Twitter, and then privately refollowed them on this friends only account that she's got. Like there's so many receipts in this thread that's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, that's it.
That is it. We are. Do you think we're descended from aliens?
Fuck no! I'm not even entertaining this.
No, me neither.
It's so racist.
It's so racist. But I just don't think like it's the only thing that is like purely fictional. And I always see like these things in I don't know why, but on my reels I always get ones that are like mad Christian ones, being like, had an article about it on the.
Yeah, like neo-evangelism.
Yeah. And one of the ones I got the other day was being like, dinosaurs have only been around since the 1950s, guys. Come on. Like, put 2 and 2 together. Like, why weren't people finding dinosaur bones before that? Like, because they weren't fucking digging into the very crevice of the earth, were they?
Yeah.
But it's so easy to like, it's mad like when you follow these strains of logic, you're like, you can understand how this thought turns into this thought, turns into this thought. It's just like expanding out from it and seeing it for what it is, which is like a fucking scheme to get people to be racist.
Nasty.
Yeah.
And with that, we will say see you next week.
Bye, Ione. Thank you so much for today.
Bye, Gina. Thank you so much for today. Bye. Thank you to Siam for the research and Charlotte for sound teching. And to Olivia for editing.
And for you,
dear listeners,
for listening.
Goodbye.
Bye.